Welcome to the Metamorphosis Podcast, hosted by Nora Brucker in Germany and myself, Erin Howe, in the United States. In this podcast, we talk to people about transformation and the moments and events that change us. We hope you enjoy.
All right, this is one of my favorite poems I like to recite. It's called Who Knows? Who knows what we have the potential to be? I just hope you see potential in me. Or maybe I could restore my confidence so I can see it in myself. Then I won't care if you disagree. Because I know I was placed here for a good reason. In the midst of adversity, I'm coming to my season. And when I do, oh baby, when I do, a lot of people will be shocked like they never had a clue. Life is about decisions, so be careful what you do. And be careful who you trust. A lot of people have deceived me. If I told you my life story, you wouldn't believe me. So when I make it, just know it wasn't easy. I'm as humbled as they come. I grew up to violence and poverty. We didn't really practice good customs commonly. Product of my environment, so of course it got a bond with me. I always felt like I was different, so I felt like an anomaly. I'm trying to be the first in my family to own property. Sounds crazy. Nothing like the routes that you went. But we ain't all stupid. We just never had the blueprint. A lot of talent, like the resources to use it. So when I get it, I know it will be amazing. And I'll be sure to pass it down some generations. I value love over hate. There's no debating. And if you feel different, we can end the conversation. Metaphorically, I see myself as a trash man cleaning up pollution. Are you a problem or a solution?
Welcome once again to the Metamorphosis Podcast. The poem you just heard was written by our guest today. Stephon, artistically known as Sizzle, shares with us his journey learning that he is not defined by his past and that he can create and shape his own future, the future that he wants to have. So, Stephon, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you come from?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, my name is Stephon. Sometimes I like to go by Sizzle. That's my poetry creative side. I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. Spent the first 18 years of my life in Washington, D.C. Grew up through an obstacle, a myriad of different, traumatizing events and things like that. But I still was able to make it. From there, I went to Morgantown to go to West Virginia University. And I actually been in Morgantown the last 10 years of my life.
So it was to go to college there is what pulled you to Morgantown?
Yep, originally to go to college, to be honest as well, to really get away from D.C. I knew I needed a fresh start. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew it all started with getting out of that environment.
Why West Virginia?
Well, I don't really know why. I know that, a dear coach of mine and athletic director at my school, he took me and a few friends on a visit to West Virginia. And when I came here, I kind of fell in love with it. It was such a different contrast to the city that I was from and seeing the mountains. And at that moment in time, I felt comfortable. I felt like, this was the fresh start I needed. Like I said, when I came out here, I had very little guidance, and I'm big on holding myself accountable. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really take school as serious as I could have. I had very little resources, couldn't really get books and things like some of the other kids. I found myself behind very quickly. Didn't really find that many people were willing to help me. So I kind of shied away from it, kind of got into the wrong crowds, kind of started dealing with, illegal activities and things along those lines. And I found myself really separating from, I guess, the good path. Ironically, the path that I call myself leaving in the first place. But, I realized we are creatures of habit at times, and we also are products of our environment at times as well. So it just took me a few years and a few setbacks and a few situations and having a child to really fully understand that I was here for a purpose,
Mm-hmm. Was there a defining moment that you can identify that made you stop and say, okay, I need to figure this out?
Great. That's a great question. So it's a few all in one. I was hanging with some guys and they ended up getting in some trouble, and their trouble ended up getting me in trouble. And I'm always big on the company you keep. That situation had me reflect, and the consequence of the trouble was, going to go into the time that my daughter was born. So it was going to compromise me possibly being there to witness my daughter be born. And I did what I had to do. I pulled some strings and I made it possible, and I got to be there for my daughter's birth and, be with her mom and do all of that stuff. That was one of the first moments that I realized that life is bigger than me, that I'm here for someone else. And then going on after that, listening to Les Brown, I was working at a bank, and I helped the guy. He had some fees on his account, and he was crying when I removed the fees. Nobody else would remove them. Typically, we only supposed to move one or two. I went against the grain and helped him because I always just had that nature in me. I always wanted to go above and beyond, hold the doors for people, do little things that people kind of be like, why are you doing that? I'm the type of person, I'll go in a restaurant and I'll treat the waiter like I'm trying to get a tip, because that's just how I am. Go in stores, ask the clerk, how was your day? That's just my personality. So, I was being myself in that moment. I tried to encourage him, and he told me about his struggle. He told me about his story. He told me about his battle with drug and addiction, and how there was a speaker called Les Brown who helped him kind of like get through that. He told me, if I like speaking, I like helping people. He suggests I listen to Les Brown, and I started listening to Les Brown, and that was a game changer.
What was your big takeaway from Les Brown?
My big takeaway from Les Brown, and I still listen to this one to this day, is that it's possible. Literally knowing that it's possible. A lot of people say, I can't do this, I can't do that. They cloud their mind and they limit their expectations in their head, and they never even get to the point of action because they already stopped the ideal in their head. But if you just stop and think, wait a minute, this is possible. It's literally possible. And then you can kind of form your mind and go into ways as far as how it's possible. And I kept soaking in the knowledge. And one thing I noticed as well, it transitioned into me listening to other speakers as well. I wanted to hear various points of views, even preachers, T.D. Jakes, Darius Daniels, Steve Furtick, Dr. Miles Monroe. The list goes on and on and on. And I started to notice that, hey, I like this. And I started to notice that like some people can come home and binge watch a show on something, or, I realized I never really liked movies. Even since a child, I never really been into movies and things like that. They never really caught my attention. But I realized that these motivational sermons, I could come home and I can get lost in it. And I realized that this is me, this is me. Not only do I need the message at this point myself, but I can see myself also relaying this message as well. And I do that, I notice I do that to the people around me, but I just need the courage to do it on a bigger level, And then I would say one more also key moment is this pandemic itself. Sometimes when tough things happen, there are blessings disguised in it. And during this pandemic, I ended up losing my job. There was a moment where I could have gave up and I could have felt victimized. I saw it happening all over me, but I decided not to take that particular route. I actually went against the grain and I invested in myself from years and the last few years of listening to Les Brown and people of those sorts. They gave me the courage to actually get in the game instead of sitting on the sidelines. So I figured the way I thought it was mental fortitude. I needed to sharpen my mind. I figured I could either go back to school or I could find some sort of mentor, find some sort of program, find some sort of enrichment that can propel me and to get me on a different path. So over this summer, I spent over $10,000 on self-improvement. A lot of people around me thought I was crazy, but they're starting to see the benefits of it now. They're starting to see how I'm moving different. They're starting to see how that different guidance and that mentorship. Now I'm working with Les Brown. Some of my dreams are coming true. I remember when I used to listen to this guy. Now I talk to this guy every Wednesday on a group Zoom call. And I'm in this Power Voice competition. I'm going to be virtually speaking from his Facebook Live page. And, dreams do come true. I saw once I started investing in myself and I got my mind right, that I can unlock anything I want to unlock in this world.
That's fantastic.
Yes, ma'am.
You invested in yourself.
You have to invest in yourself.
Totally.
I look at it, I always tell people, if you're going to bet on anybody in this world, why not bet on yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Why not bet on you?
Of course.
Are you going to put your fate into the next man's hand? That sounds a bit scary to me.
So where do you see yourself launching yourself from here? Like, do you even know? Do you have like an end goal, or do you have, are your visions just in the stars and wherever it takes you?
That's a great question. So my mentor, and he's one of the disciples of Bob Proctor, he speaks big on keeping a goal card. He speaks big on you should always know your goals. You should always have a big grand goal in there. And that always can be revised because the goal should always be to reach that goal and to get another goal. So my ultimate goal at this moment in time, I want the world. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a multimillionaire. I want to help millions of kids. The main thing I want to do, I want to open some sort of center that's based upon helping the youth. I kind of narrowed the age range down from 10 to 18, but the ones that are super hungry, I kind of want to keep up with them after college and stuff, or after high school, because I'm just really serious about the youth. I'm really, really passionate about the youth. I wanted to kind of be like a big brother kind of thing. Where I use my resources and the other good men and role models I know when they're in the city or when they're around. And I have other interns and they tap into their resources and they read to the kids and they give them books. I kind of want to have little book programs where I challenge people to read books. And then we have groups and we talk about the book. And if you show me mastery of the book, then I'll give you another book. And I look at it as I can learn as well, too. You might have a perspective of it that I didn't notice the first time I read it, or the first 20, 30 people I talked about it with, they might not have noticed it. So I'm big on enrichment. I'm big on learning. I want to give people the confidence to bet on themselves. I want to, like I said, I told you, I want to get the confidence that I plan on doing this month, starting my own podcast. I'm in the process of writing my own book of my life story because I have tons of knowledge and information to give. I write tons of poetry. I'm just a very hungry individual, and I'm a trust in my Lord, and wherever he take me with it, I want to go to the top with it.
So why kids?
Because the children is the future, and I tell people this all the time. The thing that really even gave me the confidence to even do these things that I'm doing now is I want to be what I felt I was missing growing up. Simple as that. And even to this point, I was the oldest of five. I always was the oldest. I always had to keep the calm collected. A lot of people know me. Some people that were close to me don't even know some of the things I went through because I just always kept that poker face. I was the guy that came to school even when I was, dealing with foster care and still been on the football. And it was a lot of people at school. I feel like only my best friend knew I was in foster care in high school. And most people, they didn't know what I was going through. They didn't know the situation, my parents and, been on drugs and just different things because I kept it cool. I always felt like I had to keep it cool, especially for my younger siblings, if anything. If Big Brother seemed like he didn't have it together, and all the time I didn't have it together. I always wish I had that mentor. I always wish I had someone that I felt came from my walk of life that fully understood. A lot of people I felt they got to a certain status and they kind of just look down on you because you're not where they are, not acknowledging that they may have once been lost or they may have once didn't have it, and somebody had to help them along the way. And I'm just very, very big on compassion. I'm very, very big on guidance. I know it takes patience. I don't expect people to get it overnight, but I see my impact now. I tell myself these are the things I want to do on a global level. So I practice it in the people around me. There are a lot of young children. I talk to them now. I stop kids and just have conversations with them. And I'm starting to see the gravitation. I see them look at me in the eye and I see them be like, hey, you know what? I appreciate you. You actually get it because I was you. I came from it. I feel like I have that ability to connect with a multitude of different kids from different backgrounds because I understand a little bit of all of it. I understand kids in the system. I understand kids from hard backgrounds. I understand kids that have confidence issue. I understand kids that don't relate to their parents well. I understand, it's just a lot of people, a large group of the children that I feel like I was you. And I get it on your level. And I'm not going to judge you. And I'm not going to make you feel any kind of way for being you. We're going to address it together. Because just like how I had to do it, I didn't always just start off this way. It was a long, tough, hard, introspective. You got to face yourself in the mirror and say, wow, this is a pattern I had. Wow, wow. You know what? I can keep doing it. or I can change it. I always bring it back to the matrix. It's like once you take the red pill, once you take that red pill, there's no going back. Once you wake up and you see the truth of reality, you can't go back to sleep and act like this is all a facade. And you got to just have the energy and the power and the mental will to see what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think it is? You mentioned people that come out of it and then they look down on others. What is that shame? What do you think that is?
I don't get it. I've always, my whole life, just felt so different from a lot of people around me. Just my level of compassion. And I always say when it comes to empathy, I argue, and I can be wrong on this. It's just my opinion. I don't really know to what degree empathy can be taught. I feel like it can be enhanced a little bit, but I feel like it's a natural thing. When it comes to empathy, from my experience, you either have it or you don't. I talk to some people, and you can tell off the bat, they can say, "Oh, I'm sorry." You can, you're good at saying that, but I'm one of those people. I really care, and you can tell. Just when you talk to people, you can tell the difference from a person who really cares and who doesn't. I feel like it's just in human nature. I feel like some people, are successful people, and they may be role models to the people they care about. But as a person on just the human level, there are a lot of people, in my opinion, that have success as far as money and monetary things, but their morals, to me, it's questionable. They might do it in front of the camera, but are you that same person when the camera's off? I'm big on integrity. Like, who are you when no one's around? Who are you for real? Who's your real character?
Right, and that's really all that matters. Because those cameras don't stay on forever.
Amen. And that's why a lot of people get exposed. But anyone that knows me, I'm true with it. I feel like, you got to have empathy for mankind. And I feel like one big advantage I have, I feel like I've always been the underdog. I've always been the voiceless. Like I said, the biggest thing for me is my empathy. All the things that I have been, everything that I went through, it gives me the understanding, and I'm not naive to think, I'm the only person that ever went through it. I don't approach it with a point like, F the world, I'm going to forget the whole world. I look at it as, man, if I felt this way, I represent, a big portion of other people that felt that way. And I know there's a void in that area. Let me be part of the problem. Let me be part of the solution. Let me do whatever I can to fix it. I don't care if it's just on a local level. I feel like my God will determine what level he want me to get on. And that's not for me to determine. All I can do is do the work.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So empathy is 100%, like you hit the nail on the head. I speak empathy a ton. The world would be so much happier for everyone if we could all just have some empathy.
I would agree 100%. And, just from the angle of, I always do preach, if you have an issue in any area, it's always in your best interest to work on it. So I get it. From that angle, I would say if you are aware that you struggle with empathy, by being hyper aware of it, there are steps you can take to, even at least if you don't show the initial empathy, you can reflect on it and you can make those adjustments quicker than you would if you didn't have any awareness about it at all. I would say little things like that. You can make adjustments.
Yeah. And something else you said that made me think, just you're not alone, right? You share a story with others, whether you know them or not, or like you're not in this alone.
It's bigger than me, man.
That's what Nora and I with this podcast, sharing people's stories really allows you to realize the commonalities that we have with people that are so much deeper than the surface, and you don't realize until you get down and dirty and just start talking.
This is true.
And I think that can be an empathy builder too.
I agree. Yeah, being willing to talk to your fellow brother or sister instead of shying away from them. I agree. That can definitely give you a different perspective in situations and realize, wow, I have a newfound respect for this guy. He went through similar things as me, or just because he's a different color, we're the same person for real,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's great too, with that being a focus of yours, working with young people and showing them how to have that compassion and empathy and practice it. Because it has to be practiced, right?
Yes, ma'am. And I feel like, of course, I want to assist adults and things along that line. But I kind of feel like, for adults, for me, it's kind of like, you're grown now. You'll figure it out. For any adult that I touch and impact along the way, that is amazing. It's all about helping as many people as possible. But my emphasis is on the children because, like I said, I was that child. It's so many children that are born into this world not even understanding their circumstances or why they almost blame themselves. I was that person. I remember being young and thinking, how is this my fault that we're hungry? Or how is it my fault that we're always getting evicted? Or how is it my fault that we're always going from place? It's just all these different things and being the oldest and putting that pressure on myself and almost feeling like I got to be the one to fix it. And I'm a child, I don't want, like I said, I know what it feels like. I know the heart of so many children. And it's one of those things where I can't just let that slide. If it's something I can do, and I also know a lot of parents, it's tough on them because a lot of it's systemic. A lot of it is generational. A lot of parents, if they knew better, they would do better. And I understand that a lot of them, they're still in the process of getting the healing and seeking healing, hopefully on their own. So they can't always be the best parent that they can be. And they're literally just raising another child to be another them. So if I can swoop in and I can play big brother, or I can play big uncle, or I can play dad role, or whatever role I can play, and I can be that person when they, make it and they be like, hey, looking back, that Stephon guy, he was an integral part of my childhood. Like I'm so happy that mom put me in his program. I ain't like it at first. I had resistance at first. He probably was mad at me at first. I was a little knucklehead, but man, I'm happy I stuck with him. And another reason too, I tell people, I kind of got a rooted interest. My daughter is 6 years old. One of these kids hopefully might be my son-in-law one day, and that scares me. And in my perfect world, a guy can dream. It's going to be some kid that came up through one of my programs. That's my vision. So I'll at least kind of know this kid. I know his background. If he dealing with anything in my program, I know he got his head on straight. So it'll be somebody I can endorse. That's just my perfect world. I hope she end up liking the guy in my program because I hope every kid in her vicinity is in my program. I hope she can't get away from any young boy that's in my program.
How will she feel about having dad check out this one is acceptable?
It wouldn't be. See, that's my thing. It's not even. I don't pick and choose for it. It wouldn't even be that. Like I said, my dream. I'm not going to guide her. I'm not going to motivate her. It's just in my perfect world, she would want to, just from the way I raised her and the way she grew up, she would want a good young man. And I feel like every young man in her vicinity, because my dream is global, it's big. I feel like every young boy that got his head on straight, he's going to need some sort of mentorship. And I feel like, why not be in my program? So even if she meets some guy and he's a good guy, and even at that moment in time, if he doesn't have things figured out, hey, join the program as well. I'll take you on as well. I just want to help people because the guy she got to be with, he going to have to live up to my standards to some degree. That's going to be big shoes to fill. So if he needs some guidance, if he needs some mentorship, if he needs some coaching, why not from your boy? I know what she like. I'm not going to lead him wrong.
So you touched on the generational overcoming and going forward. What breaks that?
Man, like I said, reshaping your mind. If you do as everyone before you did, you will get the outcome that they got. I've always kind of been a young old, so even before I fully figured out my calling, I always paid attention to the world around me. I always paid attention to older people. There are people who twice my age that are in the same position as me. I don't look down on them, but I think, how did they get to this point? No one planned on being at that point at that age, but they didn't necessarily plan not to as well. They didn't formulate a plan. They didn't, and I feel like, and I tell a lot of people, a lot of my peers that are in their 20s now, that almost had that hopeless feeling. And I had it for a few years in my life, just this hopeless feeling. I'm not going to be nothing. I'm going to be just for my parents. I'm going to be with just like the environment. But I'm like, man, we're in our 20s. Do you realize even from hypothetically, if you took 10 years now to really hone this on the craft, to really learn something, and you were sharp as a whip in your mid-30s, do you realize you will be in a position to influence so many younger people who don't have that knowledge you have? A lot of the people we look up to, a lot of people that have some of the positions we have, they had to work for it. The younger generation just thinks it's just going to come. Sometimes you had to put in 10, 15 years. Sometimes you had to pave your way and take step by step, and you're not going to just jump to the top. And I feel like it just starts with reshaping your mind, reshaping the way you're thinking. And for me, it hits hard. I lost my dad 2 years ago at the age of 54. I noticed a lot of people around me, that's another thing. When I came to West Virginia and I noticed, working at the bank and working different jobs, so many people in their 70s and 80s, it expanded my mind that you can even get that old. I grew up from an environment, I'm used to a lot of people dying at young ages from, tragedy, or, people dying in their 50s from, ailments, heart diseases and cancers and all these different things. So to me, I always thought life expectancy was like in the 50s. I always figured if I didn't die young on some crazy stuff, then I'd probably make it at 50. I remember being 25, feeling like I'm in the middle of my life. And I used to just be so depressed and just having such a very grim look on life. And when I lost my dad, that kind of just opened my eyes. Like I said, being out here and seeing there are so many people older. He was so young. And then diving deeper into my family history and knowing that he lost his dad. I never met my grandma or my granddad on my dad's side. They died before I was born. Both of them. His dad died when he was like 54, and he was a big alcoholic. My dad was a big alcoholic, died at 54. Both of them died from, reasons related to alcohol in the middle of the night from their sleep. So when you see these patterns and you see it going over and over, I can literally do the same things, or I can break the chains. And no one said it would be easy. I battle with my demons every day. But like you said, awareness, it does start with awareness. And when I pay attention and, when it comes to my mom, it's a real tough topic to talk about. Her mom, she died in her 50s. My mom, gratefully, she's still alive, but my mom had a tough life, man. My mom, she just had a real tough life, and I feel like it. Like I said, it's deeper than me. I know where I come from. I remember all those dark nights. I remember everything that happened, and it's deeper than me. I owe it to myself. I owe it to my daughter to put something better, leave something better for her. I got to leave a legacy. I got to leave something for her to leave to her children, to their children. I remember having my sister had to start a GoFundMe account to bury my dad. And I just remember how embarrassing that was, and just how low it was, and just how, uneducated and misled we've been, just my whole family tree. And it's like, it's going to start different with me. I'm going to break the chains. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be a victim of circumstances. That's why I smile and I'm positive. A lot of people when people get to know some of my background, they're like, how are you so positive coming from where you come from? I know people that come from that and they're not like you. And I'm like, because it all hit me different. It all showed me that, man, this is a real story. If you can make it coming from this, can't nothing stop you. I see the visions. I realize I have a hell of a story. I had to live it first. I'm happy most of that is behind me. And I'll still go through things. But I realized the power in still being able to breathe and being able to say, hey, yeah, it was tough. Yeah, it was hard. But, hey, I persevered. And now that I made it through that, the world better watch out, because who knows what's next.
Yeah. 2020 has been such a crazy year. How has that affected you?
This is the year I became laser focused. Losing my job was a blessing in disguise. It's no looking back. This is the year, and like Les Brown tells us every week, this is a moment that's in a high need for speakers, for people that's using their voice. There are a lot of people hurting right now. There are a lot of people struggling. A lot of people losing their jobs. A lot of people losing loved ones. A lot of people in some real tight financial situations, losing their places, losing everything that they worked hard for. Their whole life has just been flipped upside down. So I feel like, one of my sayings is, I want to create more superheroes and supervillains. I can see a lot of people going off the deep end because of situations like now. And I want to, if I can do anything at all that can be that person that saves someone from doing something that's going to put them in a whole nother situation, and I can make them rethink, and you know what? I'm not going to do that dumb stuff. I'm going to try again. And who knows what could happen. I just want to give people hope,
I think that's fantastic. We need more superheroes.
It's tough. This is a tough year, and it's going to, who knows if it's going to get any tougher. I just feel like in the midst of the pandemic, and it's tough. It's tough for me. It's tough on everyone around me. But I also, like to find the blessings in things. Being quarantined, they gave a lot of people, and I was telling people when it was going on, they gave a lot of people a lot of time to sit at home and perfect your craft. Whatever that is that you consider your craft to be, I got a lot of things done. I got a lot of reading done. I got a lot of writing done. I got a lot of material done. We were kind of living very fast, if you think about it before.
Mm-hmm.
Like life was just boom, 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 boom. I felt like it kind of made everybody take a pause and really reflect on their own life and realize how valuable life really is, and realize all these things that we cherish, that, you know, we need to stop taking the most important thing for granted, our life. And what it really means. And I feel like it really just broke people down on that level. And, you know, a lot of people with the stimulus checks and things like that, I understand if you needed it to take care of your family and things like that, completely understood. But there are a lot of people I saw who, in my personal opinion, didn't take full advantage of the opportunity. And it goes back to betting on yourself. I've seen people, you know, buy some personal items, but I feel like you could have spent that same money on personal development. And, you know, that was just my opinion. That's what I did. There were things I could have bought. I could have got a new car or did this or did that. I've seen a lot of new cars going around. I've seen a lot of paper tags, lady. But my thing is, man, let me get my mind right, and I'll be able to get whatever car I want. Like, why would I settle for this car that I can get on this level when I can increase my value? And who knows, the sky's the limit. I believe that my purpose is to motivate, to inspire, to uplift. I believe I'm supposed to do it with my stories, with my empathy, with my passion, with my spirit, with just my voice. I truly believe that that's something that's always been inside of me. It was one of those things I needed the courage to unlock, and I needed to continue to learn different things myself and, you know, get guidance so I could be in the perfect position to do that for other people. I realized that the best masters were once the best students. So I'm humble. I always say when I walk in a room, I look for the smartest person and I try to pick their brain. If I notice that I may be the smartest person in the room, I take a leadership role. When I was younger, I used to look at people that were older and I just assume, oh, you're older than me. You must be wiser than me. But I've come to realize now that wisdom isn't shaped in age. And I can teach people that are even older than me. I don't bite my tongue in those situations anymore. I'm still respectful, but I let them know that, hey, I might be younger than you, but, you know, your experience in this particular field may not always be the best answer. Let me give you a different perspective at least.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Like I said, I want to be the voice for the voiceless. When I speak, I want to stir up in people who usually don't get to speak. I want to be like, hey, wait a minute, I feel that way. Or wait, I see how confident he is. Wait, he used to feel like that. I'm not shy to go over my vulnerabilities. I feel like there are lessons in them. And I use them to more so give perspective that, hey, if I can come from this and get to this, then like I said from the beginning, it's possible. All you need to know is that it's possible. And, you know, the path, it's going to be a tough path, but it all starts with knowing that it's possible.
Yeah. So you said you are working on your book and you've been working on it during the pandemic. Is that like coming along? Is it going to happen and be complete soon? Or can you give us any tidbits or previews or?
No, great. So it's something that I started on about a month ago or so. I'm expecting to release it at the beginning of 2021. It's just a deeper introspective look on, like I said, on the life of Stephon and some of the lessons I learned. I realized over these next few months, you know, like I said, with different podcast opportunities and speaking engagements I'm going to do, there will be a deeper intrigue on who I am. And in the book, I'm going to go a little deeper as far as like just different things that I had to overcome and different battles. I always had the vision of writing a book. I just now actually have the courage to do it.
Yeah. Will it include some of your poetry that you write?
Of course. I'm also working on kind of a little compilation book of poetry. You know, wanting to release that. It's kind of like a preview before the book. And that's something that I kind of want to have out there around October or November.
Thank you, Stephon, for a great conversation today. And thank you for sharing with us your poetry and the visions you have for your future. We wish you all the best. The Metamorphosis Podcast is produced by Nora Brucker in Germany and me, Erin Howe, in the United States. Thank you to all of our supporters, and of course, a huge thank you to our guests who are telling us their stories from around the globe about change and life-changing moments. For more information about each episode, check out officialmetamorphosispodcast.com and follow us on Instagram at Official Metamorphosis Podcast for an exclusive look behind the scenes and our guests. We are happy for you to leave your thoughts on each episode, and we are very much looking forward to hearing from you. This is the Metamorphosis Podcast with Nora and Aaron.